If you want to know something about yourself, sit on your bed one night and say to yourself, "You gotta mean this, like you gotta be desperate. This is no game. It's like my life is not everything I wanted to be. And perhaps it's not everything that I need it to be. And by need, I mean, my life is so unbearable that the suffering that's attended upon, that is, make me nihilistic, cynical, bitter, resentful, homicidal, genocidal, unable to have a good relationship, prone to punish people for their virtues because of my jealousy, driving them, proclivity to see evil everywhere except within my own heart. Like these are problems, man." And you ask yourself, you sit on the bed and say, "Okay, man, I'm ready to learn something like what? What's one thing I'm doing wrong, that I know I'm doing wrong, that I could fix, that I would fix?" It's like you meditate on that. You'll get an answer, and it won't be one you want, but it'll be the necessary one, you know. And it's often something that will point you to small things. So Carl Jung said people in the modern world don't see God because they don't look low enough. And so imagine you're in your messy bedroom, and you're sitting on the edge of the bed, trying to have an honest dialogue with yourself. And the little voice says, "It's pretty disgusting in here." And you think, well, I'm way above such trivial niceties as organizing my room. It's like, now that's pride. That's arrogance if you're above organizing what's actually yours. How in the world are you ever going to organize anything else? And so you get on your knees and you think, well, it's time to, take a brush to the toilet. And maybe that's where you start. And that works like that works. You start making those micro improvements, like real micro improvements, real, on the ground. Actual micro improvements to things you know that are wrong. You'll improve unbelievably rapidly. We deserve some respect. You deserve some respect. You are important to other people as much as to yourself. You have some vital role to play in the unfolding destiny of the world. You are therefore morally obliged to take care of yourself. You should take care of help and be good to yourself, the same way you would take care of help and be good to someone you loved and valued. You may therefore have to conduct yourself habitually in a manner that allows you some respect for your own being. And fair enough. But every person is deeply flawed. Everyone falls short of the glory of God. If that stark fact meant, however, that we had no responsibility to care for ourselves as much as others, everyone would be brutally punished all the time. That would not be good. That would make the shortcomings of the world, which can make everyone who thinks honestly question the very propriety of the world, worse. In every way, that simply cannot be the proper path forward. To treat yourself as if you were someone you are responsible for helping is instead to consider what would be truly good for you. This is not what you want. It is also not what would make you happy. Every time you give a child something sweet, you make that child happy. That does not mean that you should do nothing for children, except feed them candy. Happy is by no means synonymous with good. You must get children to brush their teeth. They must put on their snowsuits when they go outside in the cold, even though they might object strenuously. You must help a child become a virtuous, responsible, awake being, capable of full reciprocity, able to take care of himself and others, and to thrive while doing so. Why would you think it acceptable to do anything less for yourself? You need to consider the future and think, what might my life look like if I were caring for myself properly? What career would challenge me and render me productive and helpful so that I could shoulder my share of the load and enjoy the consequences? What should I be doing when I have some freedom to improve my health, expand my knowledge, and strengthen my body. You need to know where you are so you can start to chart your course. You need to know who you are so that you understand your armament and bolster yourself in respect to your limitations. You need to know where you are going so that you can limit the extent of chaos in your life, restructure order, and bring the divine force of hope to bear on the world. You must determine where you are going so that you can bargain for yourself, so that you don't end up resentful, vengeful, and cruel. You have to articulate your own principles so that you can defend yourself against others, taking inappropriate advantage of you, and so that you are secure and safe while you work and play. You must discipline yourself carefully. You must keep the promises you make to yourself and reward yourself so you can trust and motivate yourself. You need to determine how to act toward yourself so that you are most likely to become and to stay a good person. It would be good to make the world a better place. Heaven, after all, will not arrive of its own accord. We will have to work to bring it about and strengthen ourselves so that we can withstand the deadly angels and flaming sword of judgment that God used to bar its entrance. Don't underestimate the power of vision and direction. These are irresistible forces, able to transform what might appear to be unconquerable obstacles into traversable pathways and expanding opportunities. Strengthen the individual. Start with yourself. Take care with yourself. Define who you are. Refine your personality. Choose your destination and articulate your being. As the great 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche so brilliantly noted, he whose life has a why can bear almost anyhow. You could help direct the world on its careening trajectory, a bit more toward heaven and a bit more away from hell. Once having understood hell, researched it, so to speak, particularly your own individual hell, you could decide against going there or creating that. You could aim elsewhere, could in fact devote your life to this. That would give you a meaning with a capital M, that would justify your miserable existence, that would atone for your sinful nature and replace your shame and self-consciousness with the natural pride and forthright confidence of someone who has learned, once again, to walk with God in the garden. You could begin by treating yourself as if you were someone you were responsible for helping. You're going to have to put some effort into your life, and you need to be motivated to do that. And so, what are the potential sources of motivation? Well, you could think about them in the big five manner, If you're extroverted, you want friends. If you're agreeable, you want an intimate relationship. If you're disagreeable, you want to win competitions. If you're open, you want to engage in creative activity. If you're high in neuroticism, you want security. Okay, so those are all sources of potential motivation that you could draw on, that you could tailor to your own. You know your own personality, but then there are dimensions that you want to consider your life across. And so we ask people about, if you could have your life the way you wanted it. In 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly, what would you want from your friendships? What would you want from your intimate relationship? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want for your career? How are you going to use your time outside of your job? And how are you going to regulate your mental and physical health, and maybe also your drug and alcohol use, because that's a good place to auger down. Cause alcoholism, for example, wipes out, 5 to 10% of people. So you want to keep that under control. And then, so maybe, you develop a vision of what you would like your life to be. And that associates the goal once the goal is established, and then you break down the goal into micro-processes that you can implement. The micro-processes become rewarding in proportion, in relation to their causal association with the goal, and that tangles in your incentive reward system. You know, we talked about the dopaminergic incentive reward system, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward. And the way it works is that it works better if it produces positive emotion, when it can see you moving towards a valued goal. Okay, well, what's the implication of that? Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation working out. And so the more valuable the goal in principle, the more the micro-processes associated with that goal start to take on a positive charge. And so what that means is, well, you get up in the morning and you're excited about the day. You're ready to go. And so, as far as I can tell, what you do is you specify your long-term ideal. Maybe you also specify a place you want to stay the hell away from, so that you're terrified to fail, as well as excited about succeeding. Cause. That's also useful. You specify your goal. You do that. You do that, in some sense, as a unique individual. You want to specify goals that make you say, oh, if that could happen as a consequence of my efforts, it would clearly be worthwhile. Because the question always is, why do something? Because doing nothing is easy. You just sit there and you don't do anything that's real easy. The question is, why would you ever do anything? And the answer to that has to be, because you've determined by some means that it's worthwhile. And then the next question might be, well, where should you look for worthwhile things? And one would be, well, you could consult your own temperament. And the other would be, well, you kind of look at what it is that people accrue that's valuable across the lifespan. Look what? So, you do a structural analysis of the subcomponents of human existence. And already did that. You need a family. You need friends like you don't need to have all these things, but you better have most of them family friends, career, educational goals, plans for, time outside of work, attention to your mental and physical health, etc. That's what life is about. And if you don't have any of those things, well, then all you've got left is misery and suffering. So that's a bad deal for you. It was easier for people to be good at something when more of us lived in small, rural communities. Someone could be homecoming queen. Someone else could be spelling bee champ, math whiz, or basketball star. There were only 1 or 2 mechanics and a couple of teachers in each of their domains. These local heroes had the opportunity to enjoy the serotonin-fueled confidence of the victor. It may be, for that reason, that people who were born in small towns are statistically overrepresented among the eminent. If you're 1 in a million now, but originated in modern New York, there's 20 of you, and most of us now live in cities. What's more, we have become digitally connected to the entire 7 billion. Our hierarchies of accomplishment are now dizzyingly vertical. No matter how good you are at something, or how you rank your accomplishments, there is someone out there who makes you look incompetent. You're a decent guitar player, but you're not Jimmy Page or Jack White. You're almost certainly not even gonna rock your local pub. You're a good cook. But there are many great chefs. Your mother's recipe for fish heads and rice, no matter how celebrated in her village of origin, doesn't cut it. In these days of grapefruit foam and Scotch tobacco ice cream, some mafia don has a tackier yacht Some obsessive CEO has a more complicated, self-winding watch, kept in his more valuable mechanical, hardwood and steel, automatic self-winding watch case. Even the most stunning Hollywood actress eventually transforms into the evil queen, on eternal paranoid watch for the new Snow White and you. Your career is boring and pointless. Your housekeeping skills are second-rate. Your taste is appalling. You're fatter than your friends, and everyone dreads your parties. Who cares if you are Prime Minister of Canada? When someone else is the President of the United States, inside us dwells a critical, internal voice and spirit that knows all this. It's predisposed to make its noisy case. It condemns our mediocre efforts. It can be very difficult to quell. Worse critics of its sort are necessary. There is no shortage of tasteless artists, tuneless musicians, poisonous cooks, bureaucratically personality-disordered middle managers, hack novelists, and tedious ideology-ridden professors. Things and people differ importantly in their qualities. Awful music torments listeners everywhere. Poorly designed buildings crumble in earthquakes. Substandard automobiles kill their drivers when they crash. Failure is the price we pay for standards. And because mediocrity has consequences, both real and harsh standards are necessary. We are not equal in ability or outcome and never will be. A very small number of people produce very much of everything. The winners don't take all, but they take most, and the bottom is not a good place to be. People are unhappy at the bottom. They get sick there and remain unknown and unloved. They waste their lives there. They die there. In consequence, the self-denigrating voice in the minds of people weaves a devastating tale. Life is a zero-sum game. Worthlessness is the default condition. What but willful blindness could possibly shelter people from such withering criticism? It is for such reasons that a whole generation of social psychologists recommended positive illusion as the only reliable route to mental health. Their credo, let a lie be your umbrella. A more dismal, wretched, pessimistic philosophy can hardly be imagined. Things are so terrible that only delusion can save you. Here is an alternative approach, and one that requires no illusions. If the cards are always stacked against you, perhaps the game you are playing is somehow rigged, perhaps by you, unbeknownst to yourself. If the internal voice makes you doubt the value of your endeavors, or your life, or life itself, perhaps you should stop listening. If the critical voice within says the same, denigrating things about everyone, no matter how successful, how reliable can it be, maybe its comments are chatter, not wisdom. There will always be people better than you. That's a cliché of nihilism, like the phrase in a million years, who's going to know the difference? The proper response to that statement is not, well then, everything is meaningless. It's any idiot can choose a frame of time within which nothing matters. Talking yourself into irrelevance is not a profound critique of being. It's a cheap trick of the rational mind. Pick up your damn suffering and bear it. And try to be a good person so you don't make it worse. Well, that's a truth. You know, I read a lot about the terrible things that people have done to each other. You just cannot even imagine it. It's so awful, so you don't want to be someone like that. Now, do you have a reason to be yes? You have lots of reasons to be God. There's reasons to be resentful about your existence. Everyone you know is gonna die. You know you too. There's gonna be a fair bit of pain along the way. And lots of it's gonna be unfair. It's like, yeah, no wonder you're resentful. It's like, act it out and see what happens. You make everything you're complaining about infinitely worse. There's this idea that hell is a bottomless pit. And that's because no matter how bad it is, some stupid son of a bitch like you could figure out a way to make it a lot worse. So you think, well, what do you do about that? Well, you accept it. That's what life is like. It's suffering. That's what the religious people have always said. Life is suffering. Yes. Well, who wants to admit that? Well, just think about it. Well, so what do you do in the face of that suffering? Try to reduce it. Start with yourself. What good are you? Get yourself together, for Christ's sake, so that when your father dies, you're not whining away in the corner, and you can help plan the funeral. You can stand up solidly so that people can rely on you. That's better. Don't be a damn victim. Of course, you're a victim. Jesus, obviously. Put yourself together. And then maybe, if you put yourself together, you know how to do that. You know what's wrong with you, if you'll admit it. You know, there's a few things you could polish up a little bit, that you might even be able to manage in your insufficient present condition. And so you might shine yourself up a little bit. And then how do you overcome the suffering of life? Is be a better person. That's how you do it well. That's hard. It takes responsibility. And I think, you know, if you said to someone you want to have a meaningful life, everything you do matters. That's the definition of a meaningful life. But everything you do matters. You're gonna have to carry that with you. Or do you want to just forget about the whole meaning thing? And then you don't have any responsibility, because who the hell cares? And you can wander through life doing whatever you want, gratifying impulsive desires for how useful that's going to be. And you're stuck in meaninglessness, but you don't have any responsibility. Which one do you want? Well, ask yourself, which one are you pursuing? And you'll find very rapidly that it isn't the majority of your soul that's pursuing the whole meaning thing.